and other films, you just put the camera, it's dead static, the frame plays, that's it. It's every story is different, and it requires a different approach in my mind.
Yeah.
And technology is only there to service it. It's not there to drive it,
It feels completely organic,
Right.
The two that you compare, Jarhead had to be shot like that, and 1917 had to be shot like that. No?
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
You can feel the result. And with this growing of the industry, I think it's time to demystify that you only work in big budgets. That's what we kind of think from outside, but this is not actually true, no?
No, I don't think it's true at all.
No. Goldfinch was.
I would. I think in a way it's sad that if I have that reputation, that's maybe why I don't get offered so many smaller budget films that I would really like to do. If somebody offered me them, anybody out there? No, I think, sometimes you have a lot more freedom and control on a smaller film than you do on a large one.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, the politics of a large film can get in the way of trying to do something really different.
Obviously, if you're doing something with a kind of the landscape and texture of a Blade Runner, you need quite a bit of money to do it, and the facilities. You need the equipment to be able to light some of those sets. But I'm not necessarily drawn to a film like that because it's big and I get a chance to play with a lot of lights. That doesn't really interest me. As I said earlier, the most interesting thing to me is a human face. And I'd shoot a movie that was just in a room with two people talking. It would be fine if I liked the script and felt something about the characters.
Can I ask you about the approach of that? Because I've heard you say many times that how you love to light a human face. No, do you have a general approach, or I know it depends on the film, but what would be, I don't know, what is your thinking process maybe when you see a face and you have to start putting lights around it?
I don't really light in that way, though. If you're just doing a portrait, it's something else. But if you're lighting a scene, a space, and actors within it, So it's not just about lighting the human face. It's about recording an actor creating a character within a scene, within a space. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But the essential element of all that is the human face, isn't it? I think. Sure, sometimes you can play a whole scene on a wide shot with two people's silhouette, but that doesn't work for the whole movie. That you have to establish the character in order to be able to do that in a successful way. So.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about like advice to other people maybe starting or that have already a body of work. You invite them to find their own eye. Like you can be inspired by someone, but you're not going to copy someone. So
yeah.
And in this process of finding your own eye, how does the own eye contribute to the common view of the eye of a complete, like a team or a film or a project?
Well, I think, in a collaboration, it's the personality of all those involved that actually creates the end product. And when I say find your own eye, I could never take photographs like Martin Parr or Harry Greer or Alex Webb, the three photographers that I deeply admire. I couldn't take photographs like them, but they would probably not take photographs like I take, the ones that I really like. So it's a different, kind of slightly different personality is coming forth in that approach. And I think that, before I knew what cinematography was really, I would watch movies and look at the cinematography and the way a film had been lit And I come to love the work of Conrad Hall. And I could see a film and know it had been shot by Conrad Hall. Why? I mean, he was a cinematographer. He wasn't a director. I mean, of different films with different actors. And, you know, one might be a Western and the other might be some dark kind of noir kind of detective film. But they all had a kind of personality that was Connie's personality that came through in that movie. For somebody else to say, but I think a bit of my personality comes through in the work I've done over the years. I mean, I think it does, you know, and if it didn't, then I don't know why I'm bothering. You know? So you kind of need to find your own personality in image making, and in a way, you know what I mean? If that's not too pretentious way of putting it.
No. I mean, you can see a common eye, but it'll also be so boring to repeat yourself, to do the same films all the time. No.
Yeah. Well, it would. It would. I mean, I was once at an interview for a film, and I hadn't read a script. I was meeting with a director, and the director said, "I want it to look like Shawshank Redemption."
Yeah.
I think, well, I haven't read the script yet. Why is it going to look like Shawshank Redemption? I mean, it's going to look like Shawshank Redemption before you've written the script, or before we talk about it. And it was just ridiculous. And yeah, it would be boring. But on the other hand, after we'd done Shawshank, Tim Robbins approached me and he said, "You might not be interested in this, Rog, but I'm doing a prison movie and I want it to look really boring." He said, "I want it to look really bland. I don't want it to be visually interesting in any way." And I said, "Well, that's really interesting. Can I read the script?" And that was, A
Dead Man Walking.
Dead Man Walking, which I think is a pretty fine film. You know, so it's not about creating visuals for the sake of visuals or whatever. It's about creating something to set the story in, you know?
Yeah, an experience also for us.
Yeah.
And I had a question. Like when you talk about Conrad Hall, and I read when at the time, I mean, you go into the ASC and you get the possibility to meet him. Let's see. For me, I'm starting, and the Chilean Society of Cinematography has been a great place to be at, to get to know other directors of photography that I admire, and have been able to be in meetings with them and hear their point of view. It's really enriching. How has it been for you when you started in the ASC or the BSc, and how has that evolved to today?
How friendly everyone was.
Yeah, I mean, I never, I didn't really meet anybody in the British Society of Cinematographers till way later. I was asked to join after I'd shot 1984, but I was never really. I didn't really know anybody in the society at that time. It was only when I came to LA and I shot Barton Fink, and it might have been a year or two after that, John Bailey invited me up to the ASC clubhouse, and I remember walking up the drive towards the steps, and I think it was Conrad Hall and Gordon Willis, Owen Roisman, and maybe Vilma Sigmund was there, but it was like a group like that. But I know Connie was like in the middle of it, and I was going to kind of walk around the back because I'm still quite shy, but I mean, I was amazingly, wow, you know, I can't walk up in front of those guys. And suddenly this voice shouts out, "Roger." And I looked up and Conrad Hall said, "You shot Barton Fink, didn't you?" And I thought, wow, that was so nice. That was so nice of him to do that. They were so welcoming. And that was kind of brilliant. And when I started in the UK, I've been in the National Film School. So I come out of film school and started shooting, mainly documentaries, but I did 2 features very early on and a few dramas. And there was a lot of resentment. I mean, I think anybody be honest about it now. There was a lot of resentment for people coming out of a film school and not working their way up through the grades, like is what you had been doing for years. You need to start as a clapper loader and then work your way up. And, by the time you were 60, you might be holding a light meter and shooting something yourself. And it wasn't like that for me. I started straight away. So there was a lot of resentment. But when I came to America, they were so welcoming. It was like a different world from what I was used to in the UK, frankly. And I loved it. And they all became, I think Conrad Hall became quite a good friend. We used to have dinner quite regularly.
Yeah. It's because sets only have one director of photography, then we don't get the chance to see other people working. And so I guess these meetings and these reunions, it truly enrich the I don't know, learning I don't know, inspiring, I would say, no?
Inspiring, but also supportive. And you can swap the kind of war stories you have from working on movies. I mean, I was fired off 2 movies in a row one time a few years ago. I've kind of got over it now, just about. But I fired off a second movie, came back to LA and met up with Conrad Hall. And he said, "Are you all right?" I said, "I've just been fired off 2 movies in a row." And he said, "Yeah, welcome. You've made it. Welcome to Hollywood." And I thought that was, again, so nice. He just dismissed it and said, "Well, it's not you. It's just, that's it,
Yeah.
And it's that sort of support and that kind of, like I say, that feeling that you're all in the same world and you're all trying. And if you try your hardest, you might rub somebody up the wrong way and they might fire you for it, but you still got to keep doing what you believe is right.
No, and also, well, just like you, the team Deakins has many resources for filmmakers. I do also believe that these societies, at least from our side of the Chilean Society of Cinematography, we try to do seminars. We try to take the work to others that don't have the access, maybe, and that back and forth is so important for the growth of our work.
Yeah.
We have questions, many questions. We could go into some of them if you want. Do you ever want to direct a film?
It was a few years ago now. We've written a couple of scripts and stuff. It was a few years ago. I came close to directing a couple of things, but then, I really enjoyed being a cinematographer, and I really enjoyed a collaboration, and I really enjoy working, and as long as I feel I'm making a contribution, I feel I'm contributing to the films I've been on, then I'm quite happy. In fact, I'm more than happy. I'm quite satisfied that I've, fulfilled something. I'm not a very confident person, so I'm actually better on a set with my friends around me and not the responsibility of talking to a producer who I maybe don't have any respect for.
Find the right producer, a creative producer that can join that path, no? Yeah. But in a way, well, that first one of the first films you did on a yacht around the world, in a way, you are kind of directing as well, or how does I don't have details about it, but it was only you in with a camera, no? So
it was myself and a sound recordist, and we both became yachtsmen to be on this yacht and make the film at the same time as we were sailing the yacht with the rest of the crew. I mean, I did a few films like that. I went to Eritrea with a journalist and a sound recordist, and with a friend, we made a couple of films in psychiatric hospitals about schizophrenia and that. Yeah, I mean, so in a way, I was a director, but on the yacht race film, I was a director while we were shooting. But then when we came back, they took the footage, and the editor got credited as director because I couldn't be credited as director because the union wouldn't allow it because I was not staff, I was freelance. Anyway, there's a whole bit there, but I mean, I don't know. Does it matter? Not really.
Remembering the yacht film, and it's part of Byways as well. No, you have some of it's pretty important in your life. No, a turning point, definitely. And there's a beautiful. I mean, when people get this book, I want to inspire people to get this book. But there's a moment when you talk about going around Cabo de Hornos, no, and how a huge storm made you go back up to Rio de Janeiro, and you were there right on Carnival season, and I don't know, I thought it was a beautiful experience to share.
It was. I mean, it's an experience I definitely in my head. I probably don't go more than a day or two without some image from it flashing in my head. You know, I mean, the thing about it was that, as I said, I was not a yachtsman. I mean, as a kid, I spent a lot of my time on a boat, but not on a yacht. I'd never sailed before. So I kind of lied my way into the job, really. But it was just a sort of opportunity you couldn't turn down. And I didn't really have any responsibilities at that point in my life. So I could go away it was 9 months we were away. And it was also like, when I came back, I'd kind of proved myself. You know, I proved my commitment to filmmaking. In that case, obviously, it's documentary filmmaking. But then, you know, in the small world of London documentary filmmakers, freelance, and I was being taken seriously as part of that, you know, little circle, which I wouldn't have been before. So, you know, it was a big marker in my life, really, for very many reasons.
Mm. And the other one, I believe, as well, is 1984. And that could take us back to the idea of big budgets and how things can be done in many other different ways. And most
no visual effects.
And more time, and a lot of times very more interesting as well, no?
Yeah, I mean, that's more fun as well, isn't it? You know, I mean, 1984, there's not a single effect, not a computer effects or anything, or blue screen or anything in it. It's all in camera. Mm-hmm. I mean, we even did a glass shot, you know, where they paint something on a glass, and you use deep focus to blend the real image and the painting together and all that. And then we projected onto the same thing with a partial mirror, so you had the feeling of the big telescreen imposed on this landscape. So we used all sorts of techniques to so that we could do everything in camera. And I mean, mainly was because it was cheaper back then for us to do it in camera than to do blue screen and elements and all the rest. So yeah, we found ways to do it, and it was a great deal of fun doing it. Even we even used big carbon arc projectors and this technician invented this partially silvered screen so that we could get the light level we needed on two screens that were like 45 feet across on an exterior location. And that was really fun because people said, no, we should do this, you know, in post and put it in, you know, shoot it blue screen. I said, well, what's anybody going to react to? Nobody's going to see anything. They're not, you know, the actors or the extras. We had like 1,000 extras on this thing. And what are they going to react to? So we did some tests, and it proved we saved a lot of money and did it in camera. And yeah, everybody had something to react to. And at the end of the night, you felt it was such an achievement. You know, to do it that way, it was fun. It's great.
Yeah, have fun. That's nice. No stress. Well, the normal stress, but also
yeah. It's very stressful, but it was all right back then.
James, and can you tell us? There's another question for you about the experience as a script supervisor and how that started, but also how that shifted to the camera department or the department.
Well, I think the role of script supervisor is very interesting, because if you do your job really well, it's always somebody else's idea, because you're just there to ensure that the story gets told. And what I liked about it is that you had the whole film in your head the whole time, and you needed to know cutting. And so you needed to know whether something would work or not, or whether something would pull people out. And you needed to know what rules didn't matter. That was the main thing, is that there are rules, and there are rules for a reason. But sometimes, for instance, if you're flipping the line and there's a strong point of geography, it doesn't matter. So when I would work, I was always close to the camera department, because I was taking down their information and what was important to them, so I could remember it when we came back and did the rest of the scene or whatever. So because I was always thinking about the story and knew a lot about camera, it became easy, because when Roger and I got married, I continued scripting, but then sometimes we had to be on different films, because again, the director chooses the script supervisor. So we decided we wanted to be together. So I stopped working, but I can't stop working. It's not in me. So I started doing all this stuff behind the scenes, and I knew it. And of course, then being around Roger, I was learning a lot anyway. So it was kind of natural to me, because I don't know why, I always felt the visual was so important to telling the story. Now, yeah, the script's really important, and the props are, and all of that, but I think it placed me close to camera. And
yeah, I remember when we met on a film. James was scripting, I was shooting, obviously, and we just hit it off as friends, not any other way, because she always had this wonderful sense of how the visuals are going to work in terms of the storytelling. And it wasn't like a lot of script supervisors had like a book of rules. Now you can't cross the line, and whatever, and you can't do that because that glass was over here, and now you're putting it. Continuity was can be a nightmare with certain people. But James was always aware of what the shot was doing, and shot to shot, and the whole feel of the script. So
I think when I was working in the lab, I was working on certain high profile accounts, and there was a movie that came through, and the editor asked me if I would see his first cut. And I said, yeah, sure. So I saw the cut. I liked the movie. And he said, well, I'm going to make some changes. I might take this character out. And I could not see how you could take a whole character out. And then he asked me to come in after the cut, and it was so much better. And you would have never known that that character was in there. And that taught me so strongly that you have to understand that what's in your head and what you know doesn't matter, because there could be, if you have a camera pointing this way, there could be a whole other world behind it, but no one would ever know. They'd think you were in a bakery or wherever, and you were actually in the middle of a parking lot or something, but you can make it seem that way. And I think that's what's important, is to remember the magic of movies, and to know that the only thing that matters is what's going into the cut.
Yeah, but it's actually a dream come true, I would think, Roger, to have two more eyes, and not only any eyes, but someone that is as passionate and that knows you so well, and that your two brains can can work together in one direction and to build these amazing images you do.
Yeah, no, I mean, we think it's great, but I think it's pretty boring in the evening for anybody else when we're going through the day's work, together. It's like we can't talk about anything else.
A ver, let's see, any other questions? Or something that maybe I missed out, James, of the things we wanted to talk about.
Oh, yeah, what was it?
Something that you would like to.
Well, I think the idea of, because you told me that the people around you thought, well, because they're working on low budget, they're not able to advance. And I think working on low budget is the way to advance because you have so much more freedom to create what you want. Yes, you have limitations, but one thing we've learned through the podcast, everybody says limitations, from limitations comes inspiration. So it's actually a great thing to be able to work on a set where you're not concerned about the studio or what, all this other political stuff that's coming down, and you can focus on what the story is. So I
always thought documentaries is a very good training ground, a very good place to start because, especially the sort of documentaries I did where you're just following an action and you haven't got a chance to do a second take, and you've got to sense what's the important moment and you almost got to see into the future to kind of imagine what's going to happen next and where to put yourself and, as I say, what's important and what's not important. But especially when I started, when I was a boy, when I was shooting documentaries, it was film, obviously. And if you were going somewhere like India or Eritrea or something, you could only take so much film. So you only had a limited amount of time to shoot. And so you had to be quite selective in advance. I mean, it's slightly different now. You can just keep the camera running forever. But I thought that was a very good training, you had to decide, not afterwards. You had to decide there and then what was important and how much you're going to concentrate on one character or another or whatever, I kind of thought that was good.
And I think it's also important to know that doesn't always turn out the way that you want. And for instance, for us, when we see a film, the final cut of it after we worked on it, we never like it. We always see is the compromises, all the things we had to give up.
That might be a bit harsh to say we never like it, but we're never happy with it. You know what I mean? Everything, you can't, you can't push that button on the camera without compromising in some way. Everything you do in some way is a compromise.
But you give yourself a couple of years and then you see it again and you go, oh, that's not so bad because you have a fresh outlook.
Yeah, you come with fresh eyes and you think, well, we got maybe 60% or 70% of the intent there, so everything, nothing can be perfect. If you could do something that you felt was perfect, would you ever bother doing another movie? I wouldn't. No, I mean, why would you do it? Oh, I've done it. It's perfect. So we can retire now and put our feet up. Great.
Denis and you, when we on that conversation, you talked. He said, I don't know if it has something to do with this. I guess you're very proud of Blade Runner, but you talked that how you needed to get some sort of distance after seeing it. No, it's difficult to go back and see it again.
I think enough time has passed. I think we can see it.
Yeah, I mean, I see it now, and I see it now. I can see it for what it is, rather than kind of like agonizing over what I didn't get right. Just in terms of my little field of the photography of it. I'll watch it now as a film. I find it does have quite a profound effect, So I think the film is more important. I feel it's more important now than I felt it was when we'd finished it,
Well, and when you're in prep, there's all these plans, and you have the story's going to go this way, and it's good. But then sometimes it's just too much to go that way, and you don't have the scheduled time or anything, and so you say, okay, we're going to go this straight path, and it's good, and nobody else who sees it knows that you were going to go down the other path. It's just that when you first see it, you go, "Oh, it would have been so much better if we had done that."
Yeah, a lot of what ifs. Yeah,
but you do get past that, and so you just have to know that give yourself a couple of years, and it's going to look a lot better.
Yeah, and try to see it from the eyes of us that don't know that process.
Exactly.
Because it is beautiful film, and for many people, I know it has been. I got a chance to see it in a theater, and it was a beautiful experience. And I was just wondering, but yeah, I guess you're so involved in the process. You're so involved in, and I must imagine how stressful the whole visual effects part of the process has been really demanding and hard.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
That film in particular, did you have to go to other shoots in between, or could you two be during the whole process of post-production?
Well, first of all, the visual effects, we were building most of the stages. It was just in the background, but I think we went away to recover for a while, and then so we weren't there in the beginning of the process, but I kept talking to them saying we need to get in, because it's a hard thing to get them to do that. But then they finally agreed, and then we were very much part of the process, and we weren't working in order to do that, because sometimes you have to do it that way.
Yeah, it depends on some films, well, like on Skyfall, I came back on contract again to oversee the effects shots and then the final DI. We came back. Blade Runner, I know we were there in person, but in the interim, I can't remember if we were off on another movie, but sometimes you get stuff sent to you anyway. Yeah. You have a secure connection, and you get to see stuff, or you go to you go to one of the
someplace
Company
nearby
3 or something, and they'll feed it in. And
has 4K projection.
Yeah.
We've done that before, I think, on Sicario.
Yeah.
On whatever was before Sicario.
Yeah.
I watched that.
Yeah, and
I've never not been there to do a final timing of every film I've shot. Mm-hmm. I haven't ever been out of the room when a shot is being timed. I've timed every shot in a film, and every film I've done, I've timed every shot I've done. Mm-hmm. And how that's worked out, I don't know, because sometimes we had been on another movie, but then we'd set up a remote timing screen, and at the end of the day's shooting, we would go in and we would time, like Jesse James, we timed in the evenings when we were shooting something else.
Revolutionary Road.
Road, yeah. So,
but it took a lot of conversations to get that to happen, because most of the time their attitude is, oh, you're not available in town, so then you won't be able to do it.
That's great.
But it's just a lot of talking and a lot of talking. And generally I can get the director to support.
Well, generally the director wants that anyway.
Yeah, right, because that's why they wanted you to do it to begin with. But it is sometimes hard to make that time to make sure you are but it's
controlling it.
Pretty critical.
And it's hard to say no to projects, but it could be a possibility if you're so involved in that process to just say, I'm sorry, I can't go. I have to. This is my work finishes here, and I'm still working.
Yeah. I think that's true. I can't remember when that was the case, but it might well have been. We've
done well. There have been things that we've thought about, but then we think, but is it worth it in that way? And it's a process that going through visual effects for us isn't paid for. So, I mean, it's definitely a commitment.
Well, that's true, because after 1917, we could have been on something else, but we weren't, because we wanted to see 1917 through.
Mm-hmm.
And and that, although there weren't a huge amount of effects shots in it, it was very important those backgrounds sat in the world that we'd shot, So, it's, you spend, I don't know, you spend 4 months, 6 months, maybe 9 months on a movie. You don't really want to throw it away in the last few weeks of post-production. So it's important to be there.
As the technology improves and improves, you can change it a lot more than you used to be able to. So you have to be there to protect it.
You say improves, but in some ways it's not improving.
Wow.
Who's the one that's deciding if that's an improvement or not? You've got so much power now in post that you can change what you've shot.
Yeah. And
so it's unrecognizable if you.
And there are people that have not been as lucky that have, for instance, gone in and timed it, and then either the director or the studio one time comes in afterwards. On this one with the studio, a studio person came in and changed the whole timing and released it that way, which became a big issue. And I can't remember whether then they rechanged it or not.
No, it became a big legal issue.
Well, that's the other one. But so it's difficult because it is the director's film. So you hope to work with a director that has enough respect for you, that wants your input. And because what we do is we go in and time it, and then the director comes in and looks at it, and we talk about it, and there might be some tweaks and some changes, which is fine. Because again, it's a collaboration.
We've always had that collaborative relationship. But we hear horror stories of some films where the cinematographers never got through, not got in the timing suite at all, not even to see the product. And the first time they see it is when it's on the television. Really, I think that's horrific.
And that is something that Martin Parr described in the podcast I heard yesterday. He says he does still and not movies because he has the property of his images, and this way, I believe societies like the BSC, the ASC, we should work towards looking for these rights on images.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially now with everything that's going on. And that's why being involved in the visual effects is so important, because that is an area that things can change so much. And so it needs to be acknowledged that there is one person that's in charge of the visual look.
Yeah.
And not as sometimes visual effects thinks that it switches over to them.
Yeah.
And that's just not right.
It's interesting, though, with Martin Parr or Harry Greer and Alex Webb, who we've also talked on the podcast. 3 photographers that each of which had experience in film. Harry and Alex Webb, they both started kind of like with a little bit of documentary work and stuff. And they moved into still photography simply because they wanted complete control over the image that they were taking. And they didn't like the collaborative process. But for us, I love that collaboration. I love the crews. I love that feeling of everybody working together to the same end. Yeah. I also like the converse of that, which is wandering around by myself with my camera and just taking personal images. But I couldn't do the still photography route. That's why I'm not a still photographer. I couldn't have taken that route in my life. I think I would have been too isolated from the world. I don't know how to cope with that.
Something really magic about being on the set and the collaboration and spending these months with the same people that become like your family. And but at the end, if you do a whole bunch of nights, you're all fighting among each other because you're just like a family. It's like, go away from me. I don't want to talk to you now. But it is really incredibly magic. And I think that's why most of us put up with everything that we put up, is because we love the work. So I can see.
Yeah, it's like, to work on a movie, you kind of got to be part sort of gypsy as well, haven't you? I mean, that's why we're so lucky to have a relationship and work together, because we could be one moment, we could be anywhere and living out of a hotel, but we still got our personal life as well,
Yeah. The Oscars. So do you keep them in a closet? What do you do with them?
What do you do with them?
They're in a closet.
Yeah.
They're in a cupboard, actually. Yeah. Where are they?
They're in your cupboard by your.
They're in a cupboard by
It was funny though. The best thing was after the first Oscar, the assistant cameraman that we use, our family so much, called me and said, "James, I can't ask this of Roger." I said, "What? What's up?" He said, "Is it possible to get a picture of the Oscar for my son, young son?" I said, "You know what? Come over for dinner." And he came over for dinner, and we have a picture of him holding the Oscars, the boy. And that was the best thing about the Oscars, because he was thrilled.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, prices are prices, but I also, you had so many nominations before you got the two Oscars, and it's 15 nominations, right? Before you got the Blade Runner first, and then Blade Runner. It almost feels like a punk idea that you're always going to be nominated and never get it. It was a magic about it, no?
It was quite comforting, really. No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's funny, you get to that point, and I go to that point, and James was reminding me of this the other day, going up on stage after Blade Runner 1. You get to that point and think, well, I've been doing this for like 50 years. And I got up there and I was so nervous. And I looked out, and there were people that I'd worked with, and they were actually happier than I probably was. I mean, they were all so they were clapping and smiling. And I thought, wow, this has been my life. And it's only moments like that you look back, don't you? You go from film to film and you think, what am I going to do next? And you live for the moment. And those times when you're confronted with something like an Oscar, it's like then you get a bit reflective, and as I say, you see all the people in the audience that you've worked with and go, oh wow, it's pretty cool, really.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean it was like a punk statement, but when you do receive it and you go up, we can feel that you're happy, and look at people, I guess, in the audience, your friends, and it's a recognition, an enormous recognition for a huge body of work.
But it's also a recognition for the crew.
Yeah, for
who really worked on it.
Yeah,
very much so.
Yeah, and that goes back to the collaboration and the team and everything.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it's not about one person. It's definitely. Bueno, so thank you very much for this lovely conversation. I feel like I've known you for many years.
Yeah.
I invite everyone to go in the webpage, go in the podcast, listen to the podcast. There's an amazing experiences being shared there, and you can get to know more about the things that Roger and James do. I invite also to get the book Byways. It's very, very nice to see you in another aspect of your life, and I can imagine you walking around alone, looking for this. I don't know if you're looking for the images, but being inspired by some of the images that you do. Fewer is more, they say, no? And I guess that's what you've been catching around your life. And thanks to the Icaro Film Festival for making this possible. And just, I don't know, just very, very, very happy and proud to having spent some time with you talking.
Oh, well,
thank you. It's been a pleasure.
So
yeah, thank you very much.
Very nice.
Really bad that we missed half of this the recording, but well, some of this is still will be up in some webpage, and the rest will stay in our guts, like the images that.
And I think on Monday, if I can get the technology together, we might do a live with the German Society of Cinematographers. We might do it live on YouTube. If you want to come and see.
We'll share that as well on our site, so people can.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Great.
From the other side.
Yeah.
Big hug to you.
All right.
Stay safe and please continue doing the lovely work that you do.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Be well.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.